Hello and welcome to Fantasy Football by Ben. Today, I will be doing my rankings. So on Wednesdays, it's quarterback and running backs. On Thursdays, wide receivers and tight ends. Alright, let's get started. Starting at my quarterback 1 this week, week 11, I have Patrick Mahomes at the Raiders. The Chiefs were on a bye week last week, and the last time that Patrick Mahomes played against the Raiders, he had 29 fantasy points, which is his fourth highest scoring fantasy week this year. But, it's Patrick Mahomes, and you're not sitting him, and he's got a great matchup this week. And coming off their bye, they might have Sammy Watkins back. It doesn't really matter if you're playing Patrick Mahomes either way. This is going to be a big week for Patrick Mahomes. Number 2, I have Russell Wilson versus the Cardinals. Now, they've already played the Cardinals this year, and Tyler Lockett had that big game. DK Metcalf didn't really do anything, but Russell Wilson's another guy you're just not sitting. And the Cardinals' defense hasn't been amazing this year. And so, Russell Wilson did throw 2 picks against them before, but, Russell Wilson's just Russell Wilson. You're not sitting Russell Wilson. Number 3, I have Kyler Murray at Seahawks, which is also the same game on Thursday. And it's going to be a big game, big scoring game between those two teams. And the first time they played, it was a big scoring game, and I think it's going to be the same again. Kyler Murray has been the leading scorer quarterback this year, and he's been great. So if you draft Kyler Murray, good job. And I think Kyler Murray could be in the conversation for rank 1 or 2 this week, but I have him at 3 right now. I like him at 3. At number 4 this week, I have Justin Herbert versus the Jets. The Jets' defense has not been good, and we saw Patrick Mahomes throw for 4 touchdowns against them and make it look very easy, and the Jets' defense just hasn't been great this year. And Justin Herbert, I think, could have a really big week this week, and I've rated him at 4 because of that reason. And I like how well he's been playing as a rookie, not just as a rookie, just as a fantasy quarterback for you. He's been very reliable. Pretty much every week, just you can expect 20 points from him. And I like that in a quarterback. Number 5, I have Lamar Jackson versus the Titans. Titans defense, secondary-wise, has not been very good this year. And I think this could be a game where Lamar Jackson could throw for over 250 passing yards, which he hasn't really done that this year very well. So, and just passing the ball in general, Lamar Jackson hasn't done very well. And the Titans secondary is kind of beat up, so I think this could be a big week for Lamar Jackson. And he might get his 100 yards rushing, but maybe not. We'll see. Number 6 this week, I have Ben Roethlisberger at the Jaguars. The Jaguars have been pretty competitive defensively, and last week they looked very good against the Packers defensively. But they stopped the run, and that really hurt the Packers because then you can't really do a whole lot of play action. And, James Conner hasn't really been running the ball very great recently, and Ben Roethlisberger's coming off a very good game last week, so I think this could just be another big game for Ben Roethlisberger. And I really like him this week against the Jaguars, and what his receivers have been doing, I really like. So I have my number 6. Number 7, I have Aaron Rodgers at Colts. So in my bold prediction, I said that Aaron Rodgers would outscore his highest total, and I do think that's going to come true. But still, it's a tough matchup for Aaron Rodgers, and this week I have him ranked 7. I think he could get over 30 points, but it's a very difficult feat to get against a good defense like the Colts. But if anybody could do it, I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the guys that could do it in the league. At number 8, I have Deshaun Watson versus the Patriots. Patriots defense, secondary-wise, has been good this year, but Deshaun Watson is just a quarterback that's been very solid. And, last week he kind of had a down week, but it was bad weather. It wasn't like amazing deep throws that he was throwing down the field, which hopefully in Houston it's good weather. And, they have a pretty much closed stadium, so you can expect pretty good weather, and I think he'll be throwing the ball like normal. He'll just have a normal Deshaun Watson week. I like Deshaun Watson. I have him at number 8 this week. Number 9, I have Matt Ryan at Saints. Saints secondary hasn't been very good this year, and the Saints might be able to stop the running game, but Matt Ryan has so many options on the outside, especially if Calvin Ridley's back. I like Matt Ryan. I have him at number 9 this week against the Saints. I think this could be a really big week for Matt Ryan. And they're coming off their bye week. At number 10, I have Jameis Winston versus the Falcons. So that's just the opposite game. And I like Jameis Winston this week against the Falcons because the Falcons give up so many passing yards to quarterbacks, and that's pretty much what Jameis Winston is known for, and interceptions. Also, he threw 30 touchdowns last year, so, he can throw the ball. And I think this could be a big week for Jameis Winston going up against a Falcons secondary that just hasn't been able to click. They've just had so many injuries. Hopefully, some of them are back. Some of their corners and safeties are back, but I don't know for sure if they will be back or anything. Number 11, I have Carson Wentz at Browns. So, weather could play a factor into this game, but you're playing Carson Wentz because they're very heavy on the pass, and I think they could be down in this game, so then they have to throw the ball. And so, this could be a big week for Carson Wentz, or it could be a bad week for Carson Wentz, but I'm hoping it's a good week for Carson Wentz this week. I have him at number 11. Number 12, I have Cam Newton at Texans. Cam Newton's been solid. He's just been getting his fantasy points by running. I don't think he's thrown over 300 yards this year yet. And he could do it this week, but the Texans are pretty easy to run against and also pass against. So I think this could just be a really high scoring game. So I moved Cam Newton up quite a bit. And I think this could be a big week for Cam Newton, either running the ball or passing the ball. At number 13, I have Tom Brady versus the Rams. The Rams' defense has been very good this year, and especially their secondary. Well, most of their secondary. But they've been really hard to run the ball against. They're second against the run, and they're second against the pass. And so it's very hard to move the ball against the Rams. Yes, Tom Brady has a lot of options, and also he's like the quarterback 5 right now, or 6. And I think this could be a good week for Tom Brady, but I don't like him against the Rams this week. I don't like his options against the Rams this week. I'm going to try to avoid Tom Brady this week if I can, but if you have to play him and he's your best option, it's not a bad play because Antonio Brown or Chris Godwin or Mike Evans all could do something, or all could have one player out of those 3 could have a big day, which would help Tom Brady, obviously. At number 14, I have Matthew Stafford at Panthers. Panthers have been very bad against quarterbacks this year. They've been good against wide receivers, which is weird, but they're really bad against quarterbacks. So, the Panthers also gave up 31 points to Tom Brady last week, and Tom Brady looked really good, obviously, and I think Matthew Stafford could look really good this week, and Matthew Stafford's coming off of a game where he just threw for 3 touchdowns, so he's very high on his hopes, and I think he could have a big week this week. Number 15, I have Joe Burrow at football team. Joe Burrow is interesting because he throws so many passes every game, so he could have a huge game or he could have a low-scoring game. But also, Joe Burrow has the upside of also a rushing touchdown because he has run the ball a couple times this year, and he has got 2 rushing touchdowns on the year, so you never know with Joe Burrow. And then also the football team just gave up 25 points to Matthew Stafford last week, and so this could be another Joe Burrow big week, just like Matthew Stafford just had. So I think this could be a big week for Joe Burrow, and I ranked him at 15, thinking that he could have a big week against Washington. Number 16, I have Tua at Broncos. Tua is interesting because he's coming off of an okay game. He threw 2 touchdowns, but only threw for 160 yards. But I think against the Broncos, who haven't been amazing against quarterbacks this year, I think that this could be a big week for Tua. And I thought he was going to have a big week last week, obviously, but I think this one could also be a big week. So I ranked him at number 16, thinking that he could have a big week. Number 17, I have Teddy Bridgewater, but I don't know if Teddy Bridgewater is going to play or not. I'm assuming he will, so I just ranked him a little bit lower than I would have probably if he was fully healthy, but also with him not being able to run the ball himself, which he has been doing the last couple weeks, I don't know if I can rank him as high as I have in the past. And so even against the Lions, who aren't very good against the pass or good against the run this year, I think ranking Teddy Bridgewater at 17 is pretty realistic. I think he's going to be a top 17 quarterback this week, but I don't know if he's going to be top 10 or top 12 this week. I don't think he can be a for sure start this week. At number 18, I have Derek Carr versus Chiefs. Chiefs defense has been so good this year, and this is going to be a tough game for Derek Carr, but he's already played against them this year, and he threw for 3 touchdowns, and he looked good. So we'll see if he can do that again against the Chiefs defense, secondary, and front 7 that have been very tough to run or to play against this year, not just run. Number 19, I have Alex Smith versus the Bengals. Bengals haven't been amazing against the pass this year, and last week, Ben Roethlisberger, as I said before, he had a phenomenal week. And Alex Smith has thrown for over 300 yards the last 2 weeks, and he's looked really good. And so, I like Alex Smith this week. I think he's kind of an underrated guy against the Bengals defense that hasn't been good. I like Alex Smith this week, throwing for over 300 yards potentially for 3 straight games, which would be amazing. And if he threw for touchdowns, it would be even better. At number 20 this week, I have Ryan Tannehill versus the Ravens. The Ravens secondary has been very good this year, and it's always been very good. And they forced a lot of turnovers. But last week, Cam Newton looked pretty good. I mean, not passing the ball, but they were able to get run against. And I think it is because of Calais Campbell not being in the game. And so, I don't know how much Ryan Tannehill is going to be throwing the ball. And so, I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Tannehill this week. But I do think he's a good quarterback. And I think if he's your quarterback 1, I think he's a good quarterback. But this week, I would consider starting somebody else. But I do have Ryan Tannehill at 20 because I think he could have a couple passing touchdowns potentially against the Ravens, but very unlikely. They might run the ball a lot. And which, in case if they get down to like the goal line, Ryan Tannehill could throw for a 2-yard touchdown or a 5-yard touchdown to like Jonnu Smith or A.J. Brown or Corey Davis, but I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Tannehill this week. But I do think he's a good quarterback, and I'm going to have him at 20 because even though the matchup's tough this week, I still think he could potentially have a big week still because you never know with Ryan Tannehill. All right, so starting off with my running backs this week, coming in at number 1, I have Dalvin Cook versus the Cowboys. Dalvin Cook had 30 carries for 96 yards last week. He had 34 total touches. Dalvin Cook is always going to be running back 1, or at least this year always. But, I mean, the Cowboys' defense has just not been good. And Dalvin Cook's just somebody you don't sit anyway, so this is going to be a big week for Dalvin Cook. I think he'll be the number 1 scoring running back potentially. I have Dalvin Cook at number 1. Number 2, I have Alvin Kamara versus the Falcons. Falcons have actually been really good against the run. And, surprisingly, I guess. But I guess I shouldn't say really good. They've been very overachieving. They've been better than what I expected, I guess. And so I have Alvin Kamara at 2 because of that. But obviously he still catches balls out of the backfield. And I think with Jameis Winston, I think he's going to look Alvin Kamara's way more because he needs a little safety valve. At number 3, I have Nick Chubb versus the Eagles. Nick Chubb, ever since he's been healthy this year, for a whole game, he's been very good. He has 3 games over 100 yards rushing in 5 games he's played this year. And he only played 2 quarters in 1 of the games that he played. I think Nick Chubb could do... He's not scared of the Eagles' defense, and I think he could have a big run, or 2, or 3. He's leading the league in 20-yard carries, or 20-yard rushes, and he's only played 5 weeks. So that says a lot about a guy to me. I think Nick Chubb, every week, is a top 5 start. I like him this week against the Eagles. At number 4, this is going to get some controversy. I have DeAndre Swift at Panthers. I think DeAndre Swift, that's a great matchup for him. Panthers' run defense has just been awful this year. And DeAndre Swift is getting last week he had over 70% of the snaps. And so this could be another big week for DeAndre Swift. And I really like him this week against the Panthers. And I mean, he's getting work out of the receiving game. He's getting over 10 carries the last couple weeks. It's been very solid. I like DeAndre Swift at number 4 against the Panthers this week. Number 5, like I was saying with Ryan Tannehill, they're going to run the ball a lot. And number 5, I have Derrick Henry at Ravens. So, Derrick Henry is interesting because every week you're going to play him no matter what team he's playing against. And the Ravens have historically, well, in the last year and a half, been known as a very good run defense. But like I said with the Ryan Tannehill thing, with Calais Campbell gone, I think that this could be a big week for Derrick Henry because Calais Campbell's been able to stop the run for them. And without Calais Campbell, this could be a bigger week for the running game for the opposing team because last week, Damien Harris ran for over 120 rushing yards, and he had 22 carries against them, where Derrick Henry is probably going to get 30 carries this week, and he'll be like a running back 5, like I'm saying, like I'm predicting right now in my rankings. Derrick Henry, obviously, every week can go for over 100 yards rushing on 30 carries, but I think this week he'll do it for sure. I like Derrick Henry this week. I have my number 5. Number 6, I have Josh Jacobs versus the Chiefs. The Chiefs' run defense has not been amazing this year, and Josh Jacobs is also another guy that just gets carries after carries after carries, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns last week going into like the third quarter, and so then they sat him, which is unfortunate for some Josh Jacobs owners because, I mean, he had 100 rushing yards at halftime and 2 touchdowns, so I think in this game, there's no way that they're going to be ahead of the Chiefs, I don't think. So I think Josh Jacobs could sell a big week, though, against the Chiefs' run defense that isn't amazing or anything. And he ran really well against them the first time they played. Coming in at number 7, I have Miles Sanders at Browns. Miles Sanders last week had 15 carries for 85 yards. He had 5 targets, 2 catches for 10 yards. And, I mean, he basically had 2 touchdowns. Well, so the Boston Scott one, obviously, that one was a really good run by Boston Scott. It was like a 50-yard touchdown. But then the one on like the 5-yard line could have been Miles Sanders' touchdown, but Corey Clement ran it in. And so Miles Sanders had a worse week than he would have had if he would have got those, or would have got one of those touchdowns. And so I think this could be a big week for Miles Sanders. And the Browns' run defense hasn't been amazing. And he's catching balls out of the backfield, and he's getting targets, so I like him this week against the Browns' defense. That hasn't been good. At number 8, I have Aaron Jones at Colts. Colts' run defense is so good, but I still think Aaron Jones is a solid play this week, and he catches balls out of the backfield as well. And in my bold prediction, I said that Aaron Rodgers outscore his highest total this year, fantasy-wise, which is 30.2 points. And Aaron Jones is going to need to run the ball and receive the ball if Rodgers is going to be able to do that. And so I like Aaron Jones this week. I have him at number 8. Number 9, I have James Conner versus the Jaguars. James Conner hasn't been very good the last couple weeks, and the Steelers have just been throwing the ball constantly, it seems like. But I think James Conner could have a really big week this week, and I think if they get really far ahead, he could be in store for a couple rushing touchdowns. And so I like James Conner this week. I'm at number 9 against the Jaguars. Number 10, I have James Robinson versus the Steelers, which is the opposite of James Conner, where James Robinson most weeks would probably be ranked inside the top 5 or at least top 7, I would say. But against the Steelers defense, I don't think James Robinson's going to have a big week. And the Steelers are tough, and James Robinson just hasn't been seeing targets out of the backfield, which is unfortunate, but I just don't like James Robinson this week against Steelers, even if he was receiving stuff out of the backfield. At number 11, I have Mike Davis versus the Lions. He could definitely be higher. Lions are giving up so many fantasy points, but Mike Davis just hasn't been amazing ever since Christian McCaffrey, or ever since like the last 5 weeks. Well, including the week that Christian McCaffrey played. But Mike Davis just hasn't been amazing. But the Lions' defense is the worst run defense, so this could potentially be the high-scoring week that we expect out of Mike Davis. And I like Mike Davis. I'm at number 11. That's a running back 1 this week. I like Mike Davis. At number 12, I have Kareem Hunt versus the Eagles. So, like with Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt and him had 19 carries last week, both of them. They both ran over 100 yards. Just Nick Chubb had a touchdown and Kareem Hunt didn't. But Kareem Hunt gets the receiving work, and so I like Kareem Hunt this week a lot against the Eagles defense, and I think he could run over for over 100 yards again this week, and he gets passes to him, so I like Kareem Hunt this week against the Eagles, but it really could be a really bad weathered game, but I still like Kareem Hunt this week. At number 13, I have Antonio Gibson versus the Bengals. Bengals' run defense hasn't been good. Antonio Gibson just came off of a game where he ran for 2 touchdowns against the Lions' defense that isn't good, but still, I mean, the Bengals' run defense isn't amazing or anything either, and I think Antonio Gibson's just on the way up. He's been playing very well, but I mean, I also have his counterpart ranked on here, but I think they're both still really good fantasy options for running backs going forward. At number 14, I have Ezekiel Elliot at Vikings. I mean, Bears didn't really have a good running back last week, so we didn't really know what the Vikings' run defense is, but in the past, the run defense hasn't been amazing, and so we're going to go off that. And Zeke hasn't been good, but I think at the same time, you could get a lot of targets this week, and also this could be a big week for Zeke. Rushing-wise, I think Zeke could have a big day. At number 15, coming off my bold prediction, I have Jonathan Taylor versus the Packers. Packers give up the second most fantasy points this year, and Jonathan Taylor hasn't had a very good game this year, and so I have Jonathan Taylor ranked 15th, where probably most people don't even have him ranked, and it's because I hope that they just hand the ball off to him, because the Packers' pass defense is very good, but their run defense hasn't been very good, and so I think that this could be a big week for Jonathan Taylor. He just needs to get the touches. At number 16, I have Duke Johnson versus the Patriots. Patriots' run defense has been horrible, and Duke Johnson last week didn't even catch a single pass, so I think they're going to try to involve him in the passing game again this week, and so I think this could be a big week for Duke Johnson. I know he only scored like 4 points last week, but I think this could be a big week for Duke Johnson this week. At number 17, I have Damien Harris versus the Texans, which is the opposite of Duke Johnson. And Damien Harris is coming off a game where he just had 22 carries for 120 yards. And so I think this could be another big week for Damien Harris. In his last 3 weeks, he's run for 100 yards twice and ran for 71 in the middle. And he's getting a bunch of carries, so I think this could be a big week for Damien Harris, and I really like him against the Texans this week. At number 18, I have Giovani Bernard at football team. That's if Joe Mixon doesn't play. Otherwise, Joe Mixon probably moves up quite a bit for me. But right now, I have Giovani Bernard at 18 at football team. And I think that with how things have been going for Bernard, I think that this could be a big week for him, because they just gave up a receiving touchdown to DeAndre Swift and 149 total yards to DeAndre Swift last week. And I think Giovani Bernard could do something close to that, and I kind of expect him to do at least do well in the receiving game if he plays as a starting back. Because Joe Burrow likes to target him in the backfield, so I like Giovani Bernard this week against the football team. At number 19, I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire at Raiders. Raiders' run defense is so bad, but I didn't know whether to rank Clyde very high or middle and then rank Le'Veon Bell, because I don't know what they're going to do off their bye week. So I had Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 19. And then, well, I think that it's just because of the fact that I really don't know what they're going to do off their bye week with Le'Veon Bell. At number 20, I have Todd Gurley at Saints. Saints are a really, really tough defense, and last week, Jerick McKinnon had 16 carries for 33 yards. He just looked awful against the Saints. And Todd Gurley's not been a great option this year, running-wise. He's scoring touchdowns, which is always good. But against the Saints, I just don't trust Todd Gurley this week. So I had to move him really, really far down. At number 21, I have J.D. McKissic versus the Bengals, which is the counterpart to Antonio Gibson. I have J.D. McKissic at 21 because, in the last 2 weeks, he's seen 14 and 15 targets. And so with 7 and 9 catches, And so with 29 targets in the last 2 weeks, that's insane for a running back, or even a receiver, most likely. I mean, J.D. McKissic has been solid running back. If you own him, I mean, you're probably starting him at running back 2 or your flex even this week. I like J.D. McKissic versus Bengals this week. Bengals didn't look great last week, and I think that they won't look good this week defensively either. At number 22, I have Kalen Ballage versus the Jets. Ballage is interesting because in the last 2 weeks, he's seen 15 and 18 carries. And last week, he had 23 touches. And so I think he's the lead running back there. And I really like him this week against the Jets defense that hasn't been good against the run. And I think that this is just like a revenge game for Kalen Ballage versus his old team. At number 23, I have Melvin Gordon versus the Dolphins. I really like Melvin Gordon's matchup this week, and I think that since he's the receiving back, he's going to have a good chance to get a lot of touches this week, and he's been getting a lot of touches every week. But the reason why I have Melvin Gordon so far down is because I'm really not a huge fan of how he's been running the ball. And Phillip Lindsay had a bad week last week as well, but against the Dolphins defense that has been very solid the last couple weeks, I don't know if I can trust Melvin Gordon this week. And so I have him at number 23. I do like him as like a running back 2 or a flex option, but I think that still he's a little bit lower on my rankings because of the fact that he hasn't been running the ball very well. At number 24, I had Ronald Jones versus the Rams. The Rams defense is second against the run and against the pass, and so ranking Ronald Jones here was kind of interesting move because I don't know if I really trust Ronald Jones this week against the Rams, and I'm not the biggest believer in Ronald Jones this week against the Rams, and obviously last week he had that 98-yard touchdown, but I think that was kind of a little bit lucky, and so Ronald Jones going forward, I don't know if I'm going to have him in the top 25 every week, but as of right now I have him at 24. I'm sticking to it. If he has a bad week, then I'll probably just get him out of the top 25 going forward right now. But as of right now, I have him ranked 24th. It's going to be a solid play. I mean, we'll see. At number 25, I have Kenyan Drake at Seahawks. Seahawks have actually been fairly bad against the run. And so I really like Kenyan Drake this week. And he's coming off of a 100-yard rushing game. So this could be a big week for Kenyan Drake. And I like that they're splitting touches between him and Chase Edmonds. And so if my rankings went down to 27, I would probably have Chase Edmonds right there. I really like both of them this week, and Chase Edmonds is the receiving back, so I think that Chase Edmonds has a pretty good role in that offense with Kenyan Drake. It's a very Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb-esque, but I wouldn't say that Kenyan Drake's even close to Nick Chubb, or I probably wouldn't even say that Chase Edmonds is really close to Kareem Hunt either, so that was a bad comparison. But it is how they do their offense is very similar in that sense. Most likely, if you have him, you're playing him. I like Kenyan Drake. I'm at number 25. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you're new. Turn on the notifications so you get post notifications every time I post. Have a great day. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.